Welcome to the Journey Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Valentine, and today we have none other than Callyn Hahn, who is a phenomenal licensed dietitian, a detox practitioner, and just a phenomenal soul. And we're going to be covering a lot of amazing topics around health today. And I'm just super excited to be here with you, Callyn. Thank you so much for coming to our city to be able to shoot this podcast and do a lot of incredible work. And I'm so excited to dive deep into your story. And if you don't mind just giving the audience a brief overview of a little bit about yourself and your work.
Yeah, Josh, thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. We've been in conversation right before this, and it's just been so uplifting to be able to visit with someone who has been on the trajectory that you have, to have the opportunity to visit with so many across the world and just share their journeys. So I thank you for that. That's absolutely incredible, the work that you do. And this is a privilege. Absolutely. To dive in a little bit more about what I do as a detox practitioner. We firmly believe that the human body can heal on its own. So we are on this massive journey to help others identify how they can reach optimal health. Mm-hmm. In doing so, there's a lot of things that we focus on specifically. So inside of our coaching container, we have 4 main pillars. Mm-hmm. We focus on nutrition, we focus on exercise, we focus on mindset, and one pillar that is very much overlooked is environment. Mm. And cohesively, when you work on all 4 of those pillars, we firmly believe that is the path where anybody can reach optimal health. So that has been our focus for the past 3 years. I've been in business for 5 years, and as a child, I just had this strong passion to become an entrepreneur. Before my entrepreneur experience, I was in corporate for 10 years, and I was in product development and international relations. So I had been highly cultured, traveled across the world, and with product development, I visited so many manufacturers and became very seasoned on how products are made, how different, not necessarily just like food grade products, but it was any chemicals or plastics or metals. So my role in that company was to invent things. So we would invent it, take it to the manufacturer, and through that process, I learned a lot about that environmental pillar that we focus so strongly on in our coaching space, of knowing that nutrition labels, only 70% of the information is accurate on the labels. Yeah. So anything from labeling to how things are marketed, whether it is organic, whether it's not, what those classifications and standards are when it comes to apparel, certifications through companies. So my heightened awareness of how things are made really had a huge application in how I coach today.
That's incredible.
In full understanding.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. My style is also very holistic in terms of how the environment also affects your body, your mind, your soul, all of that good stuff. And I love the fact that one of your core pillars is also on environment, because a lot of the recent studies on epigenetics really show how environments do alter your genome. And it's super important to be mindful of that. I always talk about engineering your environment so that it's most conducive for your overall well-being. So that's amazing. I'm excited to kind of unpack a lot of this. But before we jump into that, if you can give the audience a little bit about your childhood, because you do have this amazing childhood growing up on a ranch, I believe, outside of Chicago. And you had a very unique upbringing, in a sense, where you had the opportunity to just be out there barefoot and play outside and get grounded and all of this amazing stuff. And I'd love for you to just share a little bit about that part of your journey.
Yeah, my childhood was so peaceful and calm. You know, being around a lot of animals that we read behavior, and we always made sure that they were in a healthy environment. It's calming for the nervous system. So something that I learned like later on in, detox, learning different healing modalities was forest bathing. So we had a bunch of woods on our property. And as a child, I would if I were to get upset, like say I stubbed my toe or I got in an argument with my brother, I would run out to the woods and I would regulate. I didn't know what I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
My body instinctively just did it. And now that I've, gotten to this season of life where it's like, wow, everything in our lives truly makes sense, to where from my childhood, my body already knew how to regulate itself and it would just instinctively do it. So there were certain things like forest bathing and grounding, running around barefoot. I hated wearing shoes and socks. I was always barefoot and any opportunity I could be. And then really diving into, I know we had spoke a little bit about the behavioral stuff. When you were so in tune with your body and you were reading your own behavior, it was something that I actually learned from animals. Because even though animals, they have their own language, they communicate with each other, but how do you communicate with an animal? And being out, I mean, when we were raised on the ranch, we were out in the middle of nowhere. So I had 34 kids in my graduating class. A lot of them were male. I didn't have a lot of females to hang out with. And when you're in a farming community like that, hanging out with your buddies looks like, hey, let's go pick giant rocks out of a field and put them on a flatbed. Like that's a group activity, or let's go bale hay together. It was always physical activity associated with actual social interactions. So I just remember going to college for the very first time and people were like sitting and talking and socializing and hanging out, or even like sitting in class at school, and it just felt off for me because I was like, this is strange. I'm used to community social engagement with movement. And because when you're on a ranch, how many times do you sit down? Maybe when you're sitting in a tractor or sitting in the truck, but everything is done through movement. And we did a lot of horse work. So when you're on an animal like that, a surface-based animal, that they're providing the service to help co-regulate you, but they're also transporting you. And you work with the animal in movement to get the task done. So learning behavior from that standpoint was so different, is because you were using these animals to co-regulate so that you could get tasks done.
For sure.
And when you learn that style of behavior, it just makes you hyper aware of not only yourself, but everything else around you.
Makes sense.
And when you're on a ranch, it's a lot of frequency and energetic work too, that a lot of people just don't truly see, because what we call them invisible inputs. Things like plants. Plants can talk to you. Plants have frequency. They want you to talk to them because they want your carbon monoxide so that they can give you oxygen in return. And we did a study out at the ranch, or like a little trial, where we would talk to the trees and then we'd ask them to come closer to our face, and they would. And these were non-windy days, and we were like, okay, this is something. Like they can hear us, they can communicate with us. Everything has life force and energy. So it's understanding, like, the rock that you have, the materials that you have in your home. Like there are so many things that, and I have a kind of a little bit of a squirrel brain, with just thinking of like, ooh, all the things that I can communicate. But when you look at the environment of a ranch, you have so much incredible green grass. You have all the trees around you, providing you incredible amounts of oxygen. So if you walk out, and when I was talking about forest bathing, you just walk out and breathe, be around the animals that are helping you co-regulate, feeling the energetic pull from the ground from being barefoot. That's what our body craves. But with society, we're so disconnected from it, and we are so programmed to live a certain way.
Very true.
When you go to school, you have to have the Michael Jordan tennis shoes. When you go to school, you have to, have all these like plastic items, in your backpack. You were just so conditioned and programmed that you can't eat until noon. Not when your body tells you can't eat until noon, until it's socially acceptable to all go to lunch together.
For sure.
So I felt a lot of challenges when I did start going to school. Because I have always had a rebellious personality. And for something that felt like it was dysregulating me, I was always very resistant to it.
Mm.
So was I the rebellious girl in class who was always trying to get into trouble so I can go to the principal's office, which meant the principal sent me home?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about self-sabotage in order for someone to truly get what they want out of life. I started that as a child.
Mm.
I would self-sabotage so that I could get kicked out of school so that I can go home and feel something that was right and natural.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting. And yeah, now that you say that, I can definitely recall a lot of moments as a child. We have our ways of just manipulating situations in our favor, and as adults, we tend to do that as well. I want to touch a little bit on life force. You mentioned life force, and this is something that I've been studying a lot lately. I love the yogic sciences, and part of the yogic sciences are the teachings of Shakti energy, which is that chi energy or that life force that flows through your body. And you hear about how this life force could essentially heal a lot of just emotional wounds. Like in the yogic traditions, they're referred to as samskaras. Whenever you have those wounds that manifest from different traumas and everything, but this life force has this ability to just come up through you and sort of heal a lot of those energy blocks that manifest themselves into tumors and cancers and all kinds of things. Yeah. And I'm curious as to what are your views in terms of this life force? You talk about forest bathing and grounding and things like that, and I believe it's all sort of interconnected, right? But I'm curious as to what are your thoughts on that, and just as it pertains to healing in itself.
Yeah, so this is an incredible question, and I'm so glad you asked. When we look at, or when I look at life force specifically, I'm thinking through the lens, because you can look at it through several different lenses. The lens that I have really chosen is frequency, and understanding the clothes that you wear, everything that you touch, the products that you use on your skin, everything has frequency to it. And transitioning to a high frequency lifestyle to where predominantly, like on camera here, I'm wearing probably clothes that have some level of plastic in them. But when I am in the comfort of my own home, I wear 100% linen. I wear 100% silk. Like there are certain things because I want to gain energy. I want to gain the frequency.
Yeah.
And we look at it from a perspective when we do focus in on frequency as like an actual lens, then we refine it a little and look at it from a gain and drain perspective. So there are certain frequencies that'll give you a gain, like those fabrics I just mentioned. Then there are other frequencies that can be a drain. And we use that balance system to evaluate everything in your life. To understand the body is the body is a master detoxifier. And when you look at the perspective of, okay, the body can detox so many things. Me as a person, how is my lifestyle going to be healthy by looking at gains and drains? So for me, I choose to do high frequency fabrics on a day-to-day. From the standpoint of there are other things, like maybe I'm going to have prepackaged foods that have been touched by plastic that's lowered their frequency. Great, that's going to be my balance. So you look at things on a balance system of, okay, what am I doing with my clothes, my skincare, things that are like touching my body externally? Then what am I doing things for my body internally?
Yeah.
And internally is not only just food, herbs, supplements, tea, stuff like that, but it's also things energetically and emotionally that we focus on too. Because environment, a huge part of that pillar too, is the people that surround you. What kind of energy and life force are you receiving from them? Are the people around you a gain or a drain? In assessing the environment, there's a lot of times that I will go into public and I'm like, I know for certain this is a drain. I'm going to remove myself from the situation.
For sure.
So there's some level of communication where you can work through it if it's a place that you have to be, with just regulating yourself, but understanding immediately when you walk into a room, is your body safe?
Yeah.
Like that's the number one question I have our clients always ask themselves. Because part of frequency is also learning your body's response, or what we call the language of your body. So, and I'm going to use this for an example. When I first walked into this home, my body got triggered. And I have heightened awareness of my environmental surroundings. When I first walked in, I'm like, oh, it smells a little musky in here. So I was waiting for my body to talk to me because I know what that means. So heightened awareness of mold, most of the time my hands will get sweaty. My palms start getting sweaty. And then I will get dry, itchy eyes. It's my body telling me like, hey, there's some mold in the environment. Let's be proactive and do the little, detox protocols that you need to do in order to help support what my body needs.
For sure. I'm glad you brought up frequency, because one of the things that I've heard over the years and just kind of learned about is the idea of the types of food that you consume and the frequency of also the animal that you consume.
Yes. Oh,
because
yes. Yeah.
depending on how that animal was pretty much grown or raised or whatever, and whether it was very traumatizing in the sense of the way it was also slaughtered, right? That has an effect, because you're sort of ingesting all of the cells and everything into your body and taking on whatever frequency that animal had. And a lot of people prefer like cage-free or whatever. And I hear different things, like sometimes the labels will have that. You spoke about labels. Sometimes you'll have these things on the labels that aren't necessarily completely accurate. But yeah, I know that some cultures, they'll preserve their animals in such a way where like it's halal, or you have even just people who are vegan, right? That the process of how a plant receives its energy, where it's directly from source. And typically a lot of the great minds on earth are usually like vegetarian and vegan. Einstein was vegetarian, and I'm wondering if there's any correlation with that in terms of the frequency of what it is that you ingest, whether it's a strictly plant-based diet. And it's interesting because we just did our last episode with Fab the Vegan, and he spoke about his journey. He lost 150 pounds just taking on a vegan diet. But I know for some people, the vegan diet isn't necessarily the best for their body type.
Yep.
So now it's a matter of, okay, well, what kind of animals am I ingesting? And, do those animals have low frequency, right? So I'm kind of curious as to what are your views
There's
on that?
So much I can talk about this. This is going to be so good. Okay, so I'm going to first address the frequency aspect. And I'm actually just going to share an example. So eggs. Most of the time, eggs that come from a really holistic source, they're like, these taste so divine. Like, why do they taste so good?
Yeah.
And then you start asking the producer on like, okay, what is their environment? Are they eating bugs instead of corn? Are they eating their traditional, like, holistic diet? And then you ask yourself, were there any roosters in the pen? Because roosters antagonize the hens and cause emotional distress. So if you have had like the most delightful eggs in your life, it's probably because the hens felt safe. There was no roosters involved, and that they were able to like eat a holistic diet. Those eggs are like the highest frequency that you can ever experience. In that same sense, on the cattle side, it's the same thing. And why we were so calm around our animals is because we knew energetically they tasted different if they had a certain diet or if they were treated a certain way. So we had a lot of love and care for our animals, especially the ones that we were putting in our freezers, because we knew that frequency was going to carry through. And when it came to actually going to the slaughterhouse, we would prepare these animals in a way that we're like, oh, we're just loading them on the trailer like normal, like they're going to go get their hooves trimmed. We keep everything so normal. And they would get bolted in the trailer when they were in their safe space. And then they would get taken off the trailer and then into the slaughterhouse. We would never unload them into the slaughterhouse where they could smell death.
Mm.
So we would it would be a couple miles out, we'd bolt them, and then we'd take them in. So that matters a lot because they can smell fear. They can smell the blood.
Yeah.
They can hear, other animals struggling. So we were very protective of what we were consuming because of that. And you can definitely tell meat from a grocery store tastes different if they were under certain conditions.
For sure. Yeah.
So that can go really, really deep. But when it comes to food sensitivities at all, what is your take on food sensitivities?
Yeah, I think it's interesting because food sensitivities, I feel like there can be some underlying trauma as to why you're sensitive
Yes.
with certain foods.
Okay.
Right? If you have let's just say a negative experience, like I for example, yellow rice and corn brings back not the most pleasant experience growing up, because there were many days we didn't have much money, and we'd eat the same thing over and over. So now I just despise it altogether. And there's some sensitivity, and then sometimes it may be people being lactose intolerant, and there's some underlying roots. So I just think that it's very subjective to the person, and what they may have gone through. And yeah, I think it's a combination of those things. Some may be inherent, but yeah, I think that some of it is trauma related for sure.
Beautiful. There's so many patterns that I started discovering when we started going really deep in nutrition with people. Mm-hmm. One aspect was, to your point, behavior by association. So say if you're sitting at the dinner table with your family and mom and dad have an argument, or your siblings have an argument, you take in some of that negative energy associated with the food.
Yeah.
So some level of that can happen, or if you are eating some food and, it just has a bunch of junk in it, it's very inflammatory, that could be a situation. But we got to the point where I was sitting there thinking, and I'm like, why do I have food sensitivities? Why does anybody have food sensitivities? Mm-hmm. We know for certain it's an inflammatory response. Why is the body getting inflamed to things that we should, whole foods, that we should digest and process well? And what we started learning is certain food sensitivities are closely correlated with certain co-infections. Are you familiar with co-infections?
No.
So when we look at all the things that the body can be infected by, whether it is viruses, some level of bacteria, it could be parasites, candida, mold, heavy metals, there's so many things that we come into contact with, even in the realm of pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate. You look at all these chemical attributes that can be introduced to the body. Like I said earlier, the body is a master detoxifier. So if it's only a couple of these things at a time, the body's like, great, we'll figure out how to detox it, and then we'll carry on. Mm-hmm. When you think of years and years and years of exposure, especially if somebody has lived in a mold house for quite some time, a lot of the times when people go to college, those houses aren't clean.
Yeah.
They're probably mold infested. So that lives within your body. And then, say you're getting to the point where you're getting, for women, they have a lot of yeast infections, you have a lot of skin issues. Now you have an overgrowth of candida.
Yeah.
And once these toxins start stacking up on top of each other, you go to a foreign country, you get a parasite, they start stacking up and your toxin load starts overflowing. Mm-hmm. And we call that co-infections, is all the infections just start stacking right up on top of each other.
For sure.
And then your body can't handle it because your liver is in such distress, it can't even detox. This is where you start getting gallstones, kidney stones, liver stones. You can have tonsil stones, things start building up in the body. You start getting thrush in your mouth, bad breath, candida overgrowth, toenail funguses, skin conditions, things start happening. And everyone thinks, I need to solve the symptom. What also happens is your food sensitivities get worse. Is because things that are sugary or have fructose in them sets off candida. Mm-hmm. And allows it to overgrow. So when you already had a toxin load, and then you're like, ooh, I'm going to eat this diet, it can aggravate your symptoms because of the co-infection that you have and the combination of the co-infections.
Yeah, I'm curious. One of the things that fascinates me about the human body is the fact that cells, pretty much almost every 99% of your cells replenish themselves within a 7-year window,
Yes.
many within just a few days or weeks. And I'm curious as to how do certain aspects of your health get carried through after 7 years if your body technically like replaces itself, and like is it stored energy, is it in the genetic makeup, is it like where how exactly is it carrying out like later on in life? Let's say something that affected you with the environment at 7, but here you are now at 22 and every cell has sort of replaced itself by then. What's your take on that, in terms of how it still gets passed on?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways I can explain this. I want to focus in on the route of, let's start with the decades.
Mm-hmm.
Every decade, it seems most people have different learning opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
And as it should be, is because, like you said, in every 7-year time window, your body kind of resets, recalibrates, or is communicating to you in a different way. Because toxin load, like maybe you haven't addressed, you got something when you were 7,
Mm-hmm.
you're 27 now,
Yeah.
that many years, 20 years where you didn't address it.
Mm-hmm.
So certain things with a healing process, if you do get to 27, you're like, oh, I finally figured out why I have this. Let's detox from it. Real detox journeys can be awakenings. And that is when you know for certain that you're healing the body at a cellular level, is when you are having emotional outbursts. You are fully awakening the body so that it feels online again. And in order to do so, you just think of like the cell membrane. When toxin overload happens, a lot of the times the toxic heavy metals are going to enter in to your cell membrane. And the cell membrane, if it is fully, like compromised, so to speak, it's going to enclose itself.
Mm-hmm.
So that toxic heavy metals are stuck in it and they can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So doing a deep dive with the right practices from a cellular restoration, our goal is to start opening up those cell membranes and allowing those cells to feel safe so that they can release the toxic heavy metals and they can bring in healthy mineralization.
Mm-hmm.
So part of a detox journey is 1, getting rid of the trauma, 2, opening up the cell membrane so that it can heal and restore. And then the back end, replenishing and remineralizing. Because in society, you just think of the ground that we live on is so demineralized. The plants that we eat, everything that we consume has a lack of minerals that our bodies are screaming to be remineralized. But you see all this over-supplementation and all of these people trying to do radical things with the human body to overcompensate for that cell not being repaired, so that you can remineralize. Because if you try to remineralize on the front end, you don't heal the trauma and you're like, you know what? I have low B12. Let's just go right in and supplement.
Yeah.
If you didn't remove the trauma that caused the low B12, if you didn't open up the cell so that it can be repaired, the remineralization can't happen.
Yeah.
So there is a specific process that you have to understand just in terms of physiology, that frequency matters, trauma matters, healing the body on the front end in that matter is so very important and very overlooked because a lot of people just want to solve the symptom.
For sure. For sure. No, it's so good. On the topic of trauma and just healing, it's one of my favorite things to talk about because of just my own personal healing journey going through 20 plus years of PTSD and trying like so many different modalities. And I think that that's why I'm so inclined to just teach on self-improvement in general, because it was definitely part of that healing process. I'm curious, has there ever been anything you personally had to heal from? We haven't really spoke about like some of your, the challenging aspects. I know you mentioned growing up in a loving environment and being outdoors, but
Yeah.
can you recall any moments of your life that may have had to heal from or still healing from?
Yeah. And I'm actually going to walk this through in a timeline because, like, as a child, I had an incredible upbringing. But did I have heightened exposure? I was on, barefoot in the ground. Were there parasites? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
But since I was in such a healthy emotional environment, my body could rapidly detox.
Yeah.
Because I didn't live in trauma.
Mm.
I think my first bouts of emotional trauma were probably college, is because I was trying to learn and navigate social skills. And I think that was the turmoil that was like the first time I had dated and I was dealing with different emotional trauma where I was like, okay, I'm eating fast food for the first time ever. I'm not eating out of the garden or animals that, we've prepared on our own. Like, I'm eating fast food. I'm dealing with emotional trauma. And there was a lot of, I was drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes. I was, living the college life that would be normal to society these days. And then after that, I went and stepped into corporate. New challenges, heightened level of stress. I mean, we were at a high-powered job. I was pounding 5 Red Bulls a day. I was eating pizza every single day, just, again, carrying on the poor diet. But my level of success, I was starting to heal some of that emotional trauma because I had gotten more confident in myself. Most people don't know this, but I just filmed a founder story on how I started bodybuilding. Because a lot of people are like, you were in corporate America, you were so successful in that retrospect. Like, what actually landed you into bodybuilding? Like, you've never been an overweight person. And I was like, actually, I was in product development. And we were sitting at a round table. And our founders of the business, they were like, we need to develop muscle enhancing products for people and animals. And I was like, great. So I was like, me just being the smart aleck, I was like, somebody should do a bodybuilding show. That'd be funny. And they all looked at me and they're like, great, that's you. So my journey from health and wellness was original ranch background, very in tune, like holistic upbringing, very country bumpkin. And then I transitioned into like modern day society. And then I transferred into the bodybuilding realm where I didn't just learn from any bodybuilding coach. When my CEO was like, you need to do a bodybuilding show to get in the inside, get all the information that you can gain, and then bring it back to our company. Like, you need to find the experts and learn from the best.
Wow.
And I was like, great, this is my job, learn from the best. And just by chance, the Olympia was the next week. So I watched the Olympia. I'm like, this is a Super Bowl of bodybuilding. Let's go. And I ended up a week later called a coach who had the top 7 of the top 10 women in the bikini division.
Wow.
Because I was like, well, I can't do I can't do bodybuilding. I need to pick a petite division that I know I could be competitive in because that was my personality. So I had reached out to this coach and he was like, hey, I just don't take amateurs, because he was asking me questions like, have you ever worked out before? Have you ever had a strict meal plan? Have you ever, 3 months consistent working for a goal? And I was like, I mean, yeah, I've worked for goals before, but no, I eat whatever I want and I don't exercise. I'm just an active person. And he was like, yeah, we don't take amateurs. I only take pro athletes. So me just being so persistent, and I was like, man, I really need to work with this guy. I was like, well, I'm going to be a pro one day, so you might as well start with me now. And he's like, okay,
I love it.
He's like, great, we'll sign you on. So working with him for a 3-month prep for a bodybuilding show, I not only learned from him, I learned from so many industry icons because of the time and energy that I invested with networking and really putting on the perspective of, I want to go all in for 3 months and I want to learn everything that I can. Not only because it became of interest to me, because I was like, this industry is so interesting because everything that they teach you is the polar opposite of what society tells you. So that awareness was like, this is intriguing for me, but also corporate is relying on me to bring back valuable data. So I kind of had like, two main focal points of like why I wanted to go all in. What came out of it was I was the healthiest version of me. There were so many things that I had healed. Who I became mentally through the process was what I wasn't anticipating.
Of course.
So I'm a firm believer that any weight cutting sport on the other side of that is health. Because some of our toxins are stored in our fat. So anytime you go to an extremely lean body fat percentage, most of your co-infection, you're starving it out.
Of course.
You're starving out the parasites. You're starving out the candida. There's so many things. Mold is being removed through your fat. So not only did I feel my best, I looked my best, but who I became mentally was a 4.0 version of myself.
For sure.
And when you walk away from that, you start looking at your entire life of like, where have I been lied to? Because if I just spent 3 months and I got shredded abs and I looked the best I've ever looked, and I've never seen myself like this before, what is my body capable of?
For sure.
What am I capable of? And you start asking yourself all these questions, and the sky becomes the limit. In that whole process.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned the toxins being stored in the fat. It made me think about fasting. So I'm going into a period of fast. Every January, we do a fast, a collective fast. And usually when people also want spiritual discernment and just more clarity, they tend to go on a fast. And I'm wondering if the process of eliminating a lot of those toxins energetically kind of has a direct effect on just spiritual discernment, insight, clarity, all of that mental fog. And what are your views on just fasting in general as a healing modality?
Yeah, so there's a phrase, and I don't know if I'm going to say this correctly, but if you can't fast from it, it owns you. So if you can't fast from food, it controls you. If you can't fast from certain people, they control you.
That's good.
So when I look at fasting, I think it's incredibly healthy. It's because your body now has a break where it can start repairing and healing itself. I feel like there's a place for fasting in everyone's journey, but for some people, it's not a long-term solution. So when I say that a lot of autoimmune cases that used to come to me, I would have them fasting so that we can get their guts to heal faster, so that we can get them eating foods. And a lot of the times when we would fast, we would lose weight, we'd lose co-infection, it starve some things out, so that we eliminate your food sensitivities. Because when I really changed my perspective of like, why do we have food sensitivities? And then I realized like, oh, it's because of the co-infections that we have. If we get rid of the co-infections, we reverse having food sensitivities, period. So dietary changes, when somebody tells me I have this diet that works for me, I'm like, great, I know exactly what your co-infection is. Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, let's heal right now. Like, I know exactly what it is, because the human body should have zero food sensitivities. Yeah.
That's good. That's really good. Now, I'm curious as to how did you make that transition into just the work that you do today in the health space? Because you were working corporate, then you did this bodybuilding, and we spoke about timelines, right? What ended up happening? And I know you told me a little bit about your bodybuilding journey and how you did encounter a health crisis. I'm curious as to whether that happened around that same season, and how'd you get into the work that you do today?
Yeah. So the transition of me, going all in, doing my first bodybuilding show turned into a 3-year career. I had sponsors. I was an international bikini model. Like, there was a lot of things that I just continued in the industry with because I saw all the benefits.
That's amazing.
Now in 2020, something unexpected happened. With COVID, there was a lot of businesses that were shutting down. And within our company, product development, they were very unsure what the future looked like for the company. And they saw that department as us being the highest paid employees, and we were the easiest cut. So our whole department got furloughed.
Wow.
So this included like our CEO's wife, nephew, there's a lot of family members and people like me who had helped build this business from the ground up. So we would walk away from that and I was like, well, you guys are going to get hired because you're family. And I just asked my CEO and he's like, let's hop on a call. So when we were visiting, he's like, Callyn, you have built my business from the ground up. He's like, I've made $8.4 million this year because of you. He's like, if anybody can walk away from this and start from the ground up and do it on their own, he's like, it's you. He said, so I'm allowing you the opportunity, the space, everything to go build your empire. And at the time I was like, wait, what? You're firing me? You know, like I still had that in my mind of like, wait, I'm getting rejected right now.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of really taking his words to heart and just saying like, hey, hit the ground running and go for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this all happened in one day. So I was in a relationship and it was unhealthy. And that morning he had said to me, he said, hey, you don't mind if we don't get married or have kids, right? So already in my head, I was like, this man no longer serves me. At noon that day, I had that call from corporate.
Wow.
By 1 o'clock, I had a moving truck and I was loading my things up. And I was living in California at the time. And my ranch was in Illinois. Loaded everything up that day. By 5 p.m., I was gone.
Wow.
And I was like, if I'm going to start my life all over again, it starts today. So it took 3 days for me to travel across the country back to Illinois. And I had a lot of time to think. In those 3 days, I gained my first 10 clients because it was 2020. Everything was locked down.
For sure.
So I'm like just calling up random friends while I'm traveling through the country. And there were some that were like struggling with autoimmune cases. There were some that were like, hey, it's COVID. We have nothing to do. I want to get in the best shape of my life. So in those 3 days, I gained 10 clients. And I was like, I'm going to trial this. I had gained the skill set from bodybuilding. I'm like, I could get people in the best shape of their life. And that's where the business started.
Wow.
Was those first 10 clients to trial to see, hey, is this something I'm even going to enjoy doing? And I never quit since then. I just kept adding more clients, getting more results, and just building the business in the most incredible direction.
Nice. So I'm curious as to also during that process, like were you just implementing a lot of the stuff that you learned with your personal bodybuilding journey and just integrated that into your coaching business?
Yeah. So that was the first part of my business was like nutrition, exercise.
Yeah.
There wasn't mindset coaching. There wasn't environment coaching. That developed as our business started to grow and we realized, okay, there are other pillars we need to focus on.
Yeah.
And part of it was me going, I always say I went through my private hell so that I can help people heal.
For sure.
And at that time I was healthy. I was doing good. I was in bodybuilding. Like I said, I was a bikini model. Like I was living my dream. And I had gone to Mexico for a bikini shoot. And I had came back different. And I didn't know what was going on at the time, but there were 14 of us ladies that went there for the shoot. All of us came back different. The only thing that we did in common were swim in the same water. Because I was in bodybuilding prep, I brought my own food to the country. I brought my own water. I brought everything. And it was during COVID. So we had protected our environment, the water that we showered in, the pool that we swam in, the cenotes we were in, all the water that we touched. Something happened to my body. It was years later that I discovered I had contracted a parasite, and an aggressive one. And that's what started my perspective from just aesthetics, health and wellness, of getting in the best shape of your life, to now me fighting for my life so that I could still service my clients. But I was struggling. I had brain fog. I was gaining weight. I couldn't compete anymore. My career ended abruptly. I was having to do 900 calories worth of cardio just to pass through the inflammation so that I could even feel decent. I felt in a way that I was coaching so many people to success, but I was living in my private hell.
Yeah.
And no one knew about it because being a strong business owner and providing a health and wellness service, you had to fake it.
For sure.
I'm healthy. I'm healthy. Get on camera every single day. But deep down inside, I was like, something is not right. So I started seeking different doctors, specialists, and I was trying to find the answers. And nobody ever, all the tests came back, you're great. You're good. You're fine. There's nothing wrong. Your liver, your kidneys, your gallbladder, everything's fine. And they're like, you look healthy. And I was like, yeah, but I don't feel fine.
Yeah, something is off.
Something's not right. It's like my body instinctively just knew, and I was constantly in fight or flight because of it. The detox journey, when I started realizing, like, okay, doctors don't have the answers for what I have. It was very black and white. I started looking at different countries, different types of medicine, started investigating Chinese medicine, looking at New German medicine with the emotions and how everything is correlated with the body, learning the meridians, learning so much and becoming obsessive about it. To where I had spoke to some doctors in Costa Rica and Canada, I mean, all over the place. I was even like Italy, France, Germany, like all over the world. I was contacting people to ask them questions. Because I realized that in most foreign countries, it is actually mandatory that you have to do a parasite detox in order to take your kids to school. But here in the United States, it's so foreign. So I knew that was part of it. I became so obsessive that I went back to Mexico. In the cenotes that we swam in, I took water samples.
Wow.
And when I took those water samples, brought them back, tested them for the exact parasite that I had. And that's when I started treating. Because I was trying the ivermectin and the 2-week protocols and all that, and it was making me worse. So I realized you have to find the exact species that you're handling. And we can say mold, we can say parasites, we can say candida, but there's all sorts of different species within those genres. Same thing with viruses, bacteria. If you are treating the wrong species, you can do more damage than you can do good. And that, I think, was the most invaluable learning opportunity that I had, was me being a tough case myself and just being so persistent and relentless about finding the answers and fighting for my health.
Wow. That's interesting. It's actually my first time really diving deep into just parasites and the nature of that healing journey. What I'm curious too, what exactly was it that healed you from that specific parasite? Was it a specific medication or healing modality? What was it that officially got you healed?
There's a lot of healing modalities, but I would say faith. So I didn't grow up in church. We had what we called like cowboy church. Like my dad would teach us, about life lessons on the ranch and stuff like that. But he always gave us the option in the future, you can choose whatever religion you want to.
For sure.
And what we're learning is there's a lot of information in the Bible that is very helpful.
For sure.
In terms of what to wear, what to eat, how to treat yourself, how to treat others. And taking away a biblical way of living was something my body needed to heal. So diving like deeper into my faith was something that was adamant for my body, and that's what it needed. Another thing, through trials and understanding my childhood behavior, was knowing that my body needed extra voltage, extra currency. So the high frequency lifestyle that we spoke of earlier, and then understanding that different modalities like microcurrent therapy, that's what allowed a lot of the co-infection to loosen up from my internal organs so that it could be expelled.
Yeah, that's good.
even lymphatic enhancement therapy, using different like neon gases, oxygen chambers. There's a lot of things on my journey that my body was just needing, but I had to trial certain things. And here's another one that I don't want to miss is sound bathing. The frequency of the sound bowls, especially the tuning forks, getting really deep into my internal organs and really breaking up energetic blocks so that my body could detox properly. Sound bathing was a huge application in my healing process. So I would say sound bathing, faith, and just making sure that I did things in the right order for what my body needed at the time.
Yeah. I love that answer because it's interesting. We did a podcast episode with Dr. Sarah, who's a psychologist, and we were talking about just healing and different modalities. And she referenced how, we were talking about faith and different belief systems and how some people, back in tribal times, they may have gone to the local witch doctor or healer, like in the village. And there's so much of that the underlying factor really was like belief, right? Mm-hmm. Or sometimes, you can reference the placebo effect. If you believe something will happen, and genetically it can alter your genome in that moment. And Dr. Sarah's answer to just healing was like, whatever works, right? Because for different people, different things work. If you're someone that is anti-religion, you're probably not going to be impacted by scripture in the way that someone who has a foundation of faith. So I was recently asked this question at a speaking event also. For me in my healing journey, someone asked what was it that worked for me? And it wasn't a silver bullet. Right. For me, it was a little bit of hypnotherapy, out of all things, doing some inner child work. And I've gone even to the valleys of Peru to do ayahuasca, like all kinds of different modalities that I've done over the years. But for my specific healing journey, hypnotherapy just happened to be the most effective. So I would always encourage the audience to just find out what works. And I love your approach to it. It's just like, let me try the buffet of options that are out there. Sometimes it may be one thing. Sometimes it's a combination of things.
Or even in a different decade of life, maybe it's a whole different setup.
Exactly.
And that's what we teach is like every decade, it's a different setup.
So true.
New skill sets, new learning opportunities.
Yeah.
So I actually want to hear more about your hypnotherapy.
Yeah. So I did specifically rapid transformational therapy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Marissa Peer, but she's like the therapist for like the royal family and a lot of high profile people. Before, so she has this really fascinating form of hypnotherapy, our rapid transformational therapy. And it's a lot of inner child work. So she'll have you kind of backtrack the inner child. And for me, what happened was I got to a place where I had discovered it was like the little boy whose dad told him that he would come back to play with him. And, the little boy is standing there by the windowsill on a rainy day, just waiting. But the dad just never returns. And it's year after year after year. And he's there just lonely, and it's cold, and he's just sad and not knowing whether or not, his dad will ever show up. And the dad was my higher self. It was my future self that hadn't come home to myself. And it took for me to go back to that dark room and see that he was waiting there all along. And just feeling so sorry that I left him there for so many years. And it took for me to embrace him and just apologize. I'm so sorry for leaving you here. I didn't realize you were waiting for me the entire time. And that's what did it for me. And reassuring him he's safe, doesn't have to worry anymore. Because for me, it was 20 plus years of nightmares of growing up in violent environments and being exposed to murder and crime and, just never feeling safe as a child. And I was just wondering why I would respond to certain things the way that I did. Why would I get triggered? And, it took me even circumnavigating the world, going and doing these sacred rituals just to heal. Like, this is not normal. Why am I still having nightmares as a 28-year-old man? And and the hypnotherapy, just connecting with my inner child. It was just that one, in that moment, I realized, like, oh, you're safe, Josh. You're good. You're good. You don't have to worry anymore. You're a big, strong man now. And coming home to myself was what did it for me.
I love how you say that too, coming home to yourself.
Yeah.
Like, I truly believe every healing modality should be intended to be experiential.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, and that's when a lot of clients start on the healing journey process, and I have them trial. I do it in an experiential format. If they don't have that awakening through the experience, because as we all know, you can be open to it, you cannot be open to it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're only going to get benefits out of it if you're open and receiving to it. But there are certain healing modalities, such as meditation or sound bathing, where I've had my out-of-body experiences, where you self-discover, like, wow, okay, there is something deeper here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to continue practicing this.
For sure.
Or even to your point with hypnotherapy, for certain that you're like, okay, this went really, really deep. Are there layers?
Yeah.
And asking yourself, is this something I need to continue to do? Or is this something that, hey, it was a one and done? My body is so solid. Do you feel like in your journey that is something you're going to continue, is diving deeper with those layers?
Yeah, I don't think that healing is ever something you've finished doing. I don't think you get to an arrival point. I think there's always different layers that you can, peel back, and you can always go deeper. And for me, I'm still on this healing journey. There've been a lot of aspects that I've healed, but then you encounter certain life challenges and things that'll trigger you. Like in recent years, it's been just business challenges, going through big business challenges, and like, wow, like, why is this affecting me the way that it has been, right? Why am I responding to this the way that I have been? And I think that that's what makes the journey beautiful, is just you really discovering a lot more about yourself in the process. And I don't even necessarily know if I ever want to stop healing. I don't think I'd ever care to get to an arrival place. I think that that's what makes us beautiful as human beings, is we come and we go through our soul's evolution here on earth. And for every single person, it's very unique. It's different. And going through that healing process allows you to empathize with those that you lead. And for me, that's what it's about. It's going through my own personal journey and healing from what I need to heal from, and also being in the race with the people that I serve, the community that I lead, and them knowing, like, hey, this man who's here giving me this wisdom, it's coming from a deeper place of understanding. It's coming from a place of being a witness, being a person who has walked the walk, who's gone through the valley. And you asked me earlier, do I feel as if I sort of like attracted the valley, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in an interesting way, I think that we all do. We all genuinely understand this internal framework of the hero's journey, right? That's embedded in the very archetypes of our subconscious. And we know that what makes a worthy story is going through those challenges, going through those difficulties. So in a way, I've learned to just embrace the fact that it's going to be an, never-ending journey of healing, and that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being perfectly imperfect, to be able to just hold the hand of the people that I lead and walk with them, like, hey, I'm here with you.
Yeah.
I'm also here with you. So
I love that answer, because I truly feel a health journey, you're going to continue to learn. Every decade you go through, you're going to continue to learn. And it's beautiful that someone can sit back and say, hey, I don't have all the answers. I haven't lived in a 48-year-old body yet. When I do enter my 40s, though, I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
I'm going to learn when I get into my 50s again. I'm going to learn a new setup. And I really think more people need to hear that. It's because they get so stuck in what they've been programmed by society to be like, I need to have everything figured out. I need to be the expert. But the most beautiful thing that happens on a healing journey, how many people did you connect with?
That's right.
How many people did I connect with? It allowed us these open doors that we never even thought were possible for us.
Yeah.
You know, a level of success that we probably never thought we would achieve. You know, all the opportunity that came from us just being persistent on continuing to find the answers.
For sure. For sure. Now, I know we've been going for quite some time, and I definitely want to be respectful of your time, but there's still like just a few things that I wanted to unpack here, and specifically as it pertains to your entrepreneurial journey and just perhaps maybe difficult circumstances that you've encountered where maybe you started to get a bit fearful or worried. And I really would love to just hear a little bit about that, because I know it's not easy. Just even for me, being in the coaching space, it's very entrepreneurial. There's no set salary. There's no safety net, if you will. There's no guaranteed paycheck at the end of the week. And it's this constant state of sort of being in a desert, right? Where you don't know where your next drink of water is going to come from sometimes. And you have to just have that faith that your creator, God, whatever you want to call it, is going to come through, and you're just taking it one step at a time. So I would love to hear a little bit about what that process has been like for you over the last 5 years or so.
Yeah. So in the beginning, it was all exciting. Got my first 10 clients. It was like, let's go. Then you start realizing, okay, I need to start looking at filing a business and taxes and all the things. Do I need to expand to employees? How am I going to best service everyone the best that I possibly can? And when you go down the path of the learning opportunities, at first it's just so exciting because you're like, great, I'm learning all these things. I'm going to apply them. But when you start taking on business applications and they fail, you're like, okay, brush myself back off. We're going to get up and we're going to do it again. We're going to get more reps in. We're going to see what happens. But when you fail like 12 times in a row at launching something like a challenge or running ads for the first time, or, you know, like you get that continued block and you're like, why is this not working? Just one more rep, just one more rep. And that was a season of life where I had to have some true growth. And where my mindset shifted with business is because I had lived in high-paced corporate environment forever. That was all I ever knew. And then being at the ranch, you know, like things, you got to take care of the cattle as fast as possible. Like it was just high energy. When you become an entrepreneur, you have to be very hyper aware of nervous system regulation. Period.
Very true.
Like that right there is understanding how to time block appropriately, hold my boundaries strong, take care of me, but then also make sure that I am regulated.
Yeah.
So that I can show up to the calls performing at my best. So even though I would have failures on the back end of like, man, we had really good sales, but that launch didn't go the way I wanted it to. You know, so you're like, in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, I need to figure it out. I need to figure it out. But on the front end, I should have been celebrating the fact that we had incredible sales, that we brought so many incredible new people into our community. But as entrepreneurs, we can get so blinded in the beginning. And then when you have those awakenings, when you have those shifts, where it's no longer about making money, it's now about building a strong community.
Yeah.
Because money comes and goes. Or if you're the business owner like me that spends it more than you can make it. Like, I think we all have those seasons where, you know, before we're self-aware, we're just like, ooh, I kind of put myself in rock bottom. But the beautiful thing of being in rock bottom, and I have noticed my behavior when I know I'm destined for the next level, intentionally, I will self-sabotage, put myself at rock bottom so that I can springboard myself into the future, because I've always seen that area where I have the most level of creativity and it springboards my level of success.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. That's why I love what you had asked me earlier, if I felt like I sort of like self-sabotage in a way and unconsciously like brought this on myself. And
Yeah.
I think that there's so much truth to that, because I've noticed during seasons of, let's just say, stability, I've noticed myself kind of take my foot off the gas and get a little complacent and comfortable. And you may have your 3 clients for the day and you have some passive income there and things are going good, but you know that you're not living up to your potential. You know that you're not in a state of creation, in a state of just innovation and getting to the next level. And in a way, I think in a very deep way, we know that unfortunately we have to have our backs against the wall, because the human condition is we'll do far more to avoid pain than to gain pleasure. And it does take for those moments of being in the valley where you say enough is enough, and you're just so, even to the point where you're disgusted with how you've been living, where it's like, okay, I'll do anything to change this situation. And unfortunately, I think also I don't like operating out of desperation. I'd prefer out of inspiration. But there are those moments where when you're in a state of desperation, you're going to do whatever it takes.
And I think that's where we come from, a place of, when we speak of this topic, though, is we are not coming out of a place of desperation.
For sure.
Like, we know that rock bottom does something to inspire that creativity of us to come up with those brilliant ideas that are like, oh, this is how I can serve my people better.
Absolutely.
And you're like, why did I not think of it before? Like, it took me getting to that hard spot for it to finally come to fruition.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, it's so true. I love the saying that you should always be hungry, never thirsty. Meaning, like, you want to keep that hunger. Like you said, you operate out of a place of inspiration, because there's that part of you that knows once you get to the other side, which is inevitable, you will get to the other side, that it's going to make for an incredible story. And you never want to give off needy vibes as well, because people smell desperation like a dog smells fear. And when you're going to potential clients and you're giving off need, it becomes more like you're doing what you're doing for you.
And you're attracting the wrong people.
Exactly.
You're attracting the wrong frequency, the wrong energy.
Very true.
And then now that you have that inside your coaching space, you're like, man, that 2:00 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
I just don't know that that's in alignment. And you start questioning.
For sure.
So as a business owner, it's learned that you have to protect your peace at all costs. And
so
make sure that you are presenting yourself in a way externally that's going to invite the right kind of frequency in for
you. Definitely. Yeah, it's interesting because you mentioned doing challenges, and I'm in the middle of doing these what we call tiny challenges, or 5-day one-on-one challenges. And it's been super helpful because, as you know, clients breed more clients. So typically when you're in motion, you've got that momentum. But I think from a frequency standpoint, there's just that place of attracting more of what your focus is on abundance. Your focus is on where you're going as opposed to where you are, and what you focus on typically expands. And I do think that it is good to just get that personal momentum, because once you're there, your frequency is different, and then you're just attracting more of your emotional state, as opposed to just being desperate, like, where's this next dollar going to come from, or operating from a place of fear, in a sense. Have you ever wanted to just throw in the towel with coaching work and just say, you know what, let me just go back to some kind of traditional job?
No. It's wild that I have this passion to just be the best. There's never a moment where I want to throw in the towel. There is a moment where I'm like, occasionally I would just love to like step away for a little while and like take a vacation, like a 4-day vacation. The thing is, when I do take the 4-day vacation, what do I think about? I'm like, ooh, now this like give me like 4 days to where I can like think and be creative. And it just brings so much excitement. So even though I'm like, ooh, I want to go on a vacation, I've created such a safe place inside of our company that when I go places, that's all I think about.
For sure.
In a place of like, ooh, where can we expand? Where can we grow? Because the umbrella, it was Callyn Hahn Enterprises at first. And my dream was to have a modeling agency. I wanted to dial in all these models for the runway.
Yeah.
Because I just look at their physiques and I just see their confidence and everything. And I'm like, that is a identity that I admire. I would love to coach them.
Yeah.
And so when we rebranded to Dialed In Coaching, we ended up getting people in the best shape of their life. But part of that too, because my business partner was a business savage, we would help people grow their finances, grow their business, and like really get them on the trajectory of taking the dialed in method that they learned for their body to heal their body and apply that in all other aspects of life so that they are truly living in generational wealth.
For sure.
So that trajectory, and this just brings me to like business success. I look at it so much different now. I've been to so many business conferences, and Myron Golden one time was at this event and he was speaking and he said, and he was like talking around money specifically, where he said, if you didn't make $1 million today, you lost $1 million.
That's right.
He said, everyone has the ability to earn $1 million every single day. He said, how you could do that could look so different. But if you are not taking the actions to achieve that, then you have lost that amount of income. So I would take my sales, and if I had, a $10,000 coaching program sold, I would subtract that from $1 million, and I'm like, okay, I have some room for improvement here.
For sure.
And you look through it from a totally different lens because you see what's possible from others, and you're like, great, they're scaling these systems, and they're really putting things into action where the sky truly is the limit.
Yeah.
But they're coming from a place of not money greed, of just improved systems.
Yeah, for sure.
Because they want to help more people.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about, is entrepreneurship. It's not about the money. It's having the open opportunities to help an endless amount of people because you have a gift that they need.
It's so true. This is resonating on a deep level. I meant to compliment you on this. I sense that you're very intuitive. You're very zen in a way, but there's also a part of you that's also very savage, and I love it. I'm here for it because I believe that that's what you need to truly thrive. In terms of where can our audience find you, where would you recommend? Instagram, all that stuff, and what are some of the ways that they can work with you, whether it's coaching, speaking, all that stuff?
Yeah, the Instagram is our number one platform. Callyn.dialedincoaching is my name listed there. You can look up Callyn Hahn. We have videos available on YouTube as well, where we showcase a lot of our success stories through clients. Dialedincoaching.com is our website where most people can see our case studies for medical cases. In addition, in the past, we've ran 5-day challenges. We've done 4-day resets to incorporate some level of initiation into basically trialing out what we do in terms of our coaching for a few days to see if it is a great fit for them.
Nice.
We've done mindset seminars, masterminds. We do public speaking. So there's a lot of ways to really engage into our community, but most people find the safest spot being inside our group coaching container.
Nice. I love it.
Being able to heal within community and experience, the one-on-one coaching through me, and get the community opportunity is very premier for a lot of high-performing business professionals to have that experience. And then our top tier is one-on-one coaching with a program we call the Dial In. We dial you in on every aspect of life, and it's a year journey with us where people explore and redefine what healthy means for them.
That's beautiful. I love it. I love everything you have going on. And last question is, how would you want the world to remember Callyn Hahn? What would you want to be remembered for?
Healing the body.
Love it.
I have an innate ability to heal the body in a very fast way. And that's how I want to be remembered.
It's beautiful. Callyn, this was really special. Thank you so much for the opportunity to interview you. And this has been such a great episode. And I know that so many people are going to be touched in a major way. So make sure you guys follow Callyn Hahn. wherever she is on social media, internet, all that good stuff. Get her book for your next talk, coaching, all of that good stuff. So there you have it, guys. Such a phenomenal episode. And make sure you tune in, like, comment, share, tag all of your friends so that they can tune into this episode as well. Till next time, take care.